Hey guys, welcome back to another AI learning session. So, today's book that we're going to cover is Debt, the First 5,000 Years by David Graeber. So, this is a continuation from my previous videos of the AI learning that I did with the topic of understanding money. And this is our third book that we are covering today. So let's go to Grok first. So, summary of Debt, the First 5,000 Years by David Graeber. Debt. The First 5,000 Years is an anthropological and historical exploration of the concept of debt, challenging conventional economic narratives. David Graeber, an anthropologist and activist, traces the evolution of debt across civilizations, from ancient Mesopotamia to the modern era. He argues that debt is not merely an economic phenomenon, but a deeply social and moral one, predating money and shaping human relationships. The book debunks the myth of barter as the origin of economic systems, suggesting instead that credit systems based on trust and mutual obligation were the foundation of early economies. Graeber examines how debt has been used as a tool of power and control, often leading to slavery, war, and social inequality, while also exploring alternative systems like communal sharing and gift economies. The narrative weaves together historical examples, anthropological insights, and critiques of capitalism, culminating in a call to rethink our assumptions about money, markets, and human interactions. The main learning points for this book are debt predates money. Graeber challenges the traditional economic story that barter led to money, showing that credit systems, where people kept track of debts informally, existed long before coins or cash. Money emerged later, often as a tool of states and empires. The social nature of debt. Debt is not just financial, it's a social bond. In early societies, it was tied to trust and community obligations. But over time, it became quantified and impersonal, often leading to exploitation. Moral dimensions of debt. Debt carries moral weight. Creditors are seen as virtuous, debtors as shameful. Graeber critiques this framing, showing how it has justified violence and inequality throughout history. Cycles of debt and power. History shows that alternating periods of credit based economies, flexible community driven, and bullion based economies, rigid, state enforced, with debt often weaponized to enforce hierarchy, from ancient slavery to modern IMF loans. Capitalism's root in debt. Modern capitalism relies on debt. Example, mortgages and credit cards, perpetuating a system where perpetual growth and repayment are demanded, often at the expense of social well being. Possibility of alternatives. Graeber highlights examples of societies that operated without debt or money, like gift economies or communal baselines, suggesting that our current system isn't inevitable. What can be applied to your life? Rethink your relationship with money and debt. Reflect on how much of your life is shaped by financial obligations. Are there ways to reduce reliance on debt? Example, living within means, avoiding high interest loans, or to prioritize relationships over transactions. Question societal norms. Graeber's work encourages skepticism towards narratives that glorify creditors and shame debtors. You might challenge guilt or pressure tied to owing money and advocate for fairer systems in your community. Build trust-based networks. Inspired by early credit systems, you could foster mutual support with friends or family, sharing resources or skills without accepting immediate repayment, reducing dependence on formal debt. Critically evaluate economic systems. When making financial decisions, example investments, loans, consider the broader implications. How does your participation reinforce or challenge the debt driven economy? Simplify and declutter financially. Graeber's historical lens might inspire you to pare down unnecessary expenses or debts, focusing on what sustains meaningful connections rather than perpetual growth. By weaving debt as a social construct rather than an unchangeable law, you can take small steps to reclaim agency over your financial life and relationships, aligning them with your values. Okay, so now we move on to ChatGPT to see what they have regarding the book. Summary of Debt, the First 5,000 Years. David Graeber's Debt, the First 5,000 Years explores the history of debt, money, and economic systems, challenging conventional narratives about how economies function. Graeber argues that debt and credit systems existed long before money and that modern capitalist financial systems are built on a moral and political foundation rather than purely economic principles. The book traces the evolution of debt through history, from ancient barter economies to modern financial markets. Graeber highlights how debt has been used as a tool of social control and power, often leading to inequality and exploitation. He also examines how societies throughout history have periodically erased debt, such as Jubilee years in ancient Mesopotamia, to reset economic stability. The core argument is that money did not emerge as a solution to barter's inefficiencies, but rather as a means of managing social obligations and enforcing power structures. Graeber suggests that our modern economic system, where debt fuels economies and financial institutions dictate social policies, is neither inevitable nor sustainable. Now we move on to the main learning points from the book. Debt is older than money. Ancient economies functioned on credit systems where people tracked debts and obligations rather than exchanging coins or goods. The myth of barter. Graeber refutes the common economic theory that money evolved from barter, showing that historical evidence supports a more complex system of credits and social obligations. Debt is a tool of control. Throughout history, debt has been used to manipulate and control populations, leading to cycles of wealth concentration and inequality. Jubilee debt cancellations. Many ancient civilizations have periodic debt forgiveness to prevent economic collapse and extreme inequality. Violence and coercion in economic systems. The introduction of money based economies often came through force, taxation, and conquest rather than natural evolution. The moral argument behind debt. Modern capitalism moralizes debt, making it seem like a personal failure rather than a systemic issue. Alternatives to our current financial system exist. Societies have used different forms of economic structure throughout history, suggesting that today, debt-driven system is not the only possible model. What can be applied to your life? Reframe your understanding of debt. Instead of seeing debt as purely financial, recognize its social and political dimensions. This perspective can help in making better financial decisions and advocating for fairer economic policies. Question economic truths. Many economic principles are built on myth rather than historical facts. Being aware of this can help critically analyze financial policies and trends in your work and personal life. Consider long term economic sustainability. As a civil engineer, you deal with infrastructure and public projects. Understanding the role of debt in funding large scale developments can help you navigate financial aspects of urban planning and policy. Think about economic justice. Debt has historically been used to oppress people. Recognizing that can inform how you approach issues like public transport funding, equitable road safety initiatives, and infrastructure development. Explore alternative economic models. If debt driven economies are not the only way forward, innovative financial solutions might be relevant to your field, especially in sustainable development and funding large scale engineering projects. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see. I think Grok and ChatGPT kind of have very similar main learning points, which I guess it should because it reads the same book. And yeah, I think it's quite a good book to read because I think you kind of have a better understanding of debt and the function that it plays in today's society. Yeah, so that's been Debt, the First 5,000 Years by David Graeber. I shall catch you in the next one with the book Money, the True Story of a Made Up Thing by Jacob Goldstein. Thank you.